So last night I tried to make a video when I was going to go through the onboards of Max Verstappen in the opening few corners of the Brazilian Grand Prix. However, it's been picked up on the YouTube copyright that's F1's footage and it blocked the video. As you can see there, copyright protected content found. Nobody will be able to watch your video. And essentially all that was on the F1 Twitter feed. We've got the various little clips that they want to put up on here, and because I went through one of their clips, which was this one here, it got blocked. So I'm going to try it differently. I've screen recorded it, and what I'm going to do is play it back at a slower speed, and then hopefully, if I can do that, hopefully it'll evade the checks. Before I do, what I want you to do is listen. Okay, I'm going to play this and then hide the image because it will get blocked if you see the image. But listen to the commentary first, because when I play it back and do the analysis myself, I'm not going to have the sound on because I'm going to need to slow it all down. Firstly, the commentator is going to describe this as an absolutely phenomenal start by Max Verstappen. Okay, and basically these commentators are just gushing 24/7, trying to hype up the magnitude of the accomplishment by Max Verstappen. They're salesmen. That's all they are. They're trying to pretend that the product that they're trying to sell is the best thing in the world. And that's all it is. They are salesmen. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, there's probably more to it than that, but they're definitely salesmen. Anyway, I'm going to just listen to this. I'm going to play it through a couple of times, but then just click off the screen when I'm playing it through. So,
absolutely phenomenal launch. Bit of a slow getaway for the Haas right in front of him. He's going by the Williams now. As we get to this first break zone, you're at the mercy of the cars in front of you. You're not sure what opportunities are going to open up. You just kind of have to play it by ear, see where the gap is, and then, as Senna famously says, you got to go for it. And this is that outside move in 3 he used to such devastating effect back in 2016. Just hanging it out there. Absolutely phenomenal launch. Bit of a slow getaway for the Haas right in front of him. He's going by the Williams now. As we get to this first break zone, you're at the mercy of the cars in front of you. You're not sure what opportunities are going to open up.
So, absolutely phenomenal launch. We'll go through that. You're at the mercy of the cars in front of you. Absolutely you are. As are all of the other drivers that he's in that race with.
You just kind of have to play it by ear, see.
Yep, you have to see what unfolds in front of you,
where the gap is, and then, as Senna famously says, you got to go for it. And this is that outside
Senna, they're trying to compare with Ayrton Senna here.
Move in 3 he used to such devastating effect back in 2016. Just
and making out that he's doing something incredible around turn 3. And again, I'll go through that.
Hanging it out there.
So, I'm now going to go to that video. Rewind to the start. It's just the same thing recorded 4 times that I'm going to go through. I'm going to take the sound down. I'm going to slow the speed down so we can see what's going on to what we're going to do. We'll set to a quarter speed. So, what you can see, this is the view out of Max Verstappen's car. Directly ahead of him is Oliver Bearman. 3rd Grand Prix, okay, in a Haas. The car over to the left-hand side that you can see is Lewis Hamilton. What you can't see out of view is the car that is right to the left and slightly ahead of Max Verstappen, which is Franco Colapinto. So Verstappen is in 17th, Colapinto is in 16th. All right. So technically speaking, Colapinto is on row 8 of the grid. Max is on row 9, but it's just the stagger. Okay, as you can see, the stagger. So Colapinto is out of view at the moment, but you'll see him emerge. So what I want you to pay attention to is the difference, the gap between Max and Lewis. You've just heard Max's start be described as phenomenal. can't even speak. Phenomenal start by Max Verstappen. Does he close up on Lewis Hamilton? Who is the car that he closes up on? Does he close up on anybody else due to the actual jump that he gets at the start? Or are all the drivers moving at a similar speed, having got off at the same rate? Let's have a look. So, let's see what we can do. Focus on the gap between Max here and Lewis over on the left-hand side. The car directly in front of Max doesn't get off the line at all. Is Max closing on Lewis? And what you can now see is Colapinto. So there's Colapinto now emerging into view. And he started about the same as Max. He was ahead of Max on the stagger on that left-hand side of the track. So essentially all that's happened is Behrman has got bogged down and not started well. And Max has just gone around him. That's all that's happened. Sergio Perez has had an atrocious start. Okay, and I've done a graphic and I'll show you exactly what happened to who on the graphic. So far, Max has taken one place, which is Oliver Behrman. All right, Colapinto is still ahead of him. Hamilton is overtaking Perez. Gasly's already up there. Bottas is already up there. So you can see Hamilton's taking Perez. What you're seeing is you've got the cars that have moved over to the left here. Colapinto has got traffic ahead of him and he's kind of boxed in. Nobody in these conditions is going to start veering off across here. Okay, it would be pretty dangerous to do at the best of times. In wet conditions, you're not going to do it. But the track is relatively clear for Max. Okay, so this is Max overtaking Perez. So who else has overtaken Perez? Well, Hamilton's overtaken him, Gasly's overtaken him, and I'll get to the graphic in a bit. Perez loses about 4 places at the start, and Max is one of them that overtakes him. So everybody's braking, nowhere to go, 3 cars abreast. Hamilton's trying to take the tight line around the inside. Everybody converges over to the inside of that corner. This is Colapinto coming back up the inside. Okay, regaining that position on Max. So far at this stage, all that's happened on that run down to turn 1, he's overtaken Behrman, who had a crap start, and he's overtaken Perez, who's had an atrocious start. And now, as they've come round turn 2, all of the cars have drifted over and almost gone single file here. This is Hamilton, okay? He was on the left-hand side of the track. Colapinto was on the left-hand side of the track. The cars that were on the right-hand side of the track have converged across on them, and it's slightly boxed them, and they've got to adjust their speed relative to that. Max started on the right-hand side of the track and has stayed right. Okay, which is fair play. It's decent enough, but it's nothing incredible. The others are now, so Colapinto being on the left-hand side of the track, he's got a car on his outside in Max Verstappen. He's got a car ahead of him, which is dictating the speed that he can go at. So Colapinto cannot go any faster than Bottas in front of him. He's boxed in. Likewise, Hamilton, having gone up the inside at turn 1, is then boxed in by those cars that have come across him as he's gone through turn 2, and has had to halt his momentum so that when this car ahead of him went across him, Hamilton wasn't too far ahead and just didn't get his nose taken off. So Hamilton had to ease back just for that field to settle in. Max has stayed where he is. And now, because all the other cars are line astern and all checking their speed relative to the car in front, Max has just stayed here and gone, well, I can go faster than you. And he clearly can. So all he's done now is, with Colapinto boxed by Bottas, and Bottas being a slow car, it's opened up for Max on that outer line, and Max has taken it. So let's play it on. Next car on the left is Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's car is very twitchy. When he tries to put the power down, you can see it's not handling well at all. We know from experience that Hamilton can drive in these conditions, struggling with that car. So this is the replay again. As you watch it through, you'll see that it's just Behrman just does not get off. Look at the distance relative between Verstappen and Hamilton. If you're trying to say it was a phenomenal start by Verstappen, who is he actually gaining on? The only car he's actually much better than is Behrman. And this car over here, which is the Sauber of Bottas, that's not done particularly well. But Colapinto's alongside of him until he gets blocked off by Perez. Hamilton's done there. Again, Hamilton's getting squeezed and he's having to be mindful about having to take a tight line, so therefore have to take a slower speed into turn one on the wet part of the track. You know, this isn't the racing line which has got all the rubber on it. This is the line that's less grippy, so he's going to have to be mindful of that and that grip level going into turn one. You know, these are all the things that these drivers are trying to manage. And all that Max has actually done there is got off the line, beaten Behrman, who's had a poor start, and beaten Perez, that's had a poor start. Colapinto's come back up the inside, regaining that place back. And then as Bottas comes across Colapinto, with Max on his outside, Colapinto's speed is dictated by Bottas. Max's isn't. So Max carries on. There you go. And Bottas is held back by Hamilton, who's had to lose his momentum to make sure he doesn't get his nose taken off by the car in front of Hamilton. And Max just goes, cheers. Okay, there's nothing incredible about that. I mean, you've got to say fair play for being there, but it unfolded nicely for him. And that's all it was. And the sport is kind of presenting it to us as if that is some sort of greatness that we're watching. And that isn't greatness. Now I'm going to try and show you this perspective from, let me just see if I can get it. I think it's Hulkenberg's perspective. So this is also on their Twitter page, one of their little videos. So as you can see here, this is Hulkenberg, which is on row 9 of the grid. All right, 18th position. Max is over to his right-hand side in 17th. So you can see the stagger here. Okay, this is Colapinto directly in front of Hulkenberg. And so you can then see the start. They call it a phenomenal start by Max. But again, his distance relative to Colapinto. Has he actually gained anything on Colapinto? Not really. It's just the fact that Behrman didn't get off the line. 3.4 thousand people have liked this, so I don't know. They don't even know what they're liking. So there's Behrman, and now you'll see that because Colapinto is coming up on Perez, Colapinto's actually being slowed down. So whereas the space is in front of Max, the space that that Behrman should be in isn't there, and that's just giving it the extra space for Max. And also, what you've also got to bear in mind is the room that Stroll has left, the room that Albon has left. Certain drivers have either moved into that space by Stroll or been able to launch a bit better so that they're not hindered by Albon's positioned car and driven into that, opening up the space on that side of the track for Max. And you can see it's all getting tight. But look now at Hulkenberg. In fact, look at Behrman. This is Behrman, who had an atrocious start on the right there in the other Haas. And look at Perez. Perez is boxed by Max. And Behrman follows through. So Behrman, who had an atrocious start, also follows Max and essentially goes around the outside of Perez. Now, I can't take it any further than that because that's all the clip that I have at my disposal. So is that incredible by Behrman? You see, it's not. It's just circumstance. It's just the way it unfolds. Now, they've put a graphic out. If we look at the Twitter page here, the graphic that they've put out, we'll find it. They put a graph out, and I've done an enlarged version of it. I think I've gone too far, but it's essentially, again, there it is, P17 to victory. They put this graph out for Max Verstappen, and look at this. Max started on P17 and he's got to victory, and it's, it looks like it's an amazing graph. All right, if people think that they can read a graph. But the reality is, let's have a look here, and I'll enlarge this. This is a screenshot of that graph, but let's break that graph down. So, he's gone. How did he get to P16? Well, Albon didn't start. How did he get to P15? Stroll didn't start. So, although they tell you that Max gained 6 places on the first lap, well, everybody that started behind Stroll and Albon gained 2 places on that first lap just by that, unless you lost places, obviously. The first overtake was directly off the line, making a start that was similar to everybody else's in terms of the amount of traction off there and the getaway. Max's getaway was not significantly better than anybody else's relative to him. It was just the fact that Behrman's was really, really poor. So it was only his 3rd Grand Prix, and he's a novice in the wet, and it was easy pickings. Okay? Second overtake was Perez. Now, Perez was an atrocious start. He was overtaken by Gasly, Hamilton, Colapinto, and even Behrman. Even Behrman was overtaking there, as I've just showed you that in that clip as he was going around turn 3. I don't know if it stuck. I don't have the footage of that, but Behrman was overtaking him, following Max around there around turn 3. That's how poor Perez was. Max's 3rd overtake was on Colapinto. Again, around about the turn between turn 2 and 3. Colapinto was boxed in. He had to adjust his speed relative to Bottas, who had just come across him, slowing him down, okay, thwarting his progress. Max was in the clearer side of the track because all the cars had converged over to the left-hand side, leaving Max that space just to drive into. Again, Colapinto started on that left-hand side of the track. It all got a bit boxed up on that left-hand side of the track. He's only in his 6th Grand Prix, not used to the wet conditions. It's kind of acceptable, but it's not a massive achievement going by Colapinto like that. Valtteri Bottas. So he goes past Valtteri Bottas around the outside of turn 3. We know that stake, kick, Sauber, whatever car it is, right? It's terrible. It's terrible. Again, not a massive accomplishment. Bottas is trying to slot into that line of cars. Okay, he's slotted in behind Hamilton. He is adjusting his speed relative to those cars around him. He's holding up the car behind him. He's probably lost a bit of momentum because Hamilton's on his inside and he's trying to slot in there. Trying to search the parts of the track with properly the more grip rather than hang it out round the outside. A lot of these drivers are being tentative. Okay, Max wasn't tentative, and fair play to him for that. He got the benefit of that. But essentially, he only got the benefit of it for the overtake of Colapinto and Bottas around that, because he'd already taken Behrman off the line. on that start-finish straight. Within the first few yards, he'd taken Behrman, and then he took Perez going down to turn 1. Okay, so they were all already out the way, and it was then just going around this section as the other cars were sorting themselves out, and they were being tentative. Hamilton was being tentative because the car is in, plus he was boxed over on that left-hand side. Bottas was being tentative. He was the one that was doing the boxing. Colapinto was boxed in. Okay, so then 3 cars are there. Max stays more right. The track opens up for him, and he drives into that space. Fair enough. But it's nothing phenomenal. And the guys that you're competing against, it's no massive achievement. So they're the first 4 overtakes that occur on that first lap. Then at the beginning of lap 2, I believe it was, or thereabouts, he takes Hamilton. Hamilton into turn 1. Hamilton really offers no defence. Hamilton doesn't defend the inside line going into turn 1 because he doesn't have the confidence in the handling of his car. We know that well, we can see, anybody with eyes can see that Mercedes has been sabotaged. He then does the same to Pierre Gasly, the following lap, I think it is, or thereabouts. Into turn 1, standard kind of move that you see at Brazil, and Gasly didn't try to defend, didn't try to cover off the defence on the inside line, saw Max coming, and decided Max wasn't his race. Quite standard practice, really. The number of times we see races, oh, Max isn't our race, and Max puts a move in and nobody defends it. So we've now got 6 overtakes. The first, and 8 positions gained. The first 2 positions, them drivers didn't start. 1 position's off the line. The other one's his teammate that didn't get off the line. Then it's 2 cars that were kind of boxing each other in, or slow, or adjusting their speed. And then it's the Hamilton and Gasly who not doing very well with poor cars and didn't defend. Then it comes to Alonso. Alonso's overtake was halfway down a straight. It wasn't even out braking somebody into a braking zone. Alonso didn't in any way contest that position. It was a straight down to turn 4. You know turn 4, the one where Max runs people off the track and into Sao Paulo, right? That turn 4. That straight down to there, Max comfortably passed him along that straight. 0 defence from Alonso. Piastri, another turn 1 overtake. Picking up the speed, getting the overspeed, pulling out around, on the inside of turn 1. Piastri did not defend. Piastri left the door open comfortably for Max, and Max didn't even have to do anything special. It was easy for that overtake. The 9th overtake, Lawson from the Red Bull B team, the RB team. Lawson pulled over. When you see drivers getting blue flags, they do not do what Lawson did to Max Verstappen. They were going into what is essentially almost like a chicane, and Behrman just moved out the way. He didn't say, well, I'm entitled to stay on the racing line until I've gone through this curve complex, and then as soon as we get to a reasonable section of the track, then I'll pull out the way for you. No, even before that corner, he was like, there you go, Max, through you go. Compromised his race time altogether, compromised seconds of his lap time there, just to allow Max Verstappen the quickest line through there. Completely jumped out the way of him. And then the next 4 positions gained were due to Leclerc pitting. So it wasn't an overtake, it was just the car pitting, and Max remained on track, gaining a position through that. Same with Tsunoda, same with Norris, and same with Russell. Then we get, firstly we get he's behind Ocon, and Ocon's actually pulls out a gap. Max gets his tyres changed for free, and eventually, Ocon initially pulls out a gap again. Then we get another safety car, and Max gets the jump on him. And then, with the visibility being better for Max drives away. So, although he's gone from P17 on the grid, he's essentially gone from P15 because he was the 15th competitor to start that race because 2 of them didn't even start it. He's actually only made 10 overtakes. And look at the quality of the overtakes that he's had to make. First one against a rookie who made a poor start, right? A 3 Grand Prix racer who made a poor start. That's not a quality overtake. That's got no value. His teammate Perez, who made an atrocious start for a guy of his experience, who lost 4 places himself. That's got no value. Colapinto and Bottas. Colapinto boxed in, a sixth-time Grand Prix competitor. Bottas in a crap car. Them 2 overtakes have got no value. Hamilton in a sabotage Mercedes. If you value that overtake with Hamilton driving that car, well, you're a mug. I know the strap-on fanboy will, but those people that can see it for what it is, that was no great move in pulling that move on Hamilton. Gasly offered no defence whatsoever. In any other race this season, would you believe that Alpine car of Gasly is going to offer any resistance to Max Verstappen's Red Bull? How many laps does an Alpine keep Max Verstappen's Red Bull behind it? It doesn't, does it? Alonso. Go and check it out. I'll leave the link to the Formula 1 video here. Just gets out the way. Doesn't even contest going along a straight. Zero value to that. Now, people will say, okay, Hamilton's an 8-time world champion. Alonso's a 2-time world champion. So Max has overtaken 10 world champions, or 10 world championship wins there. But when was the last time Alonso even won a race? Alonso's not one of the greatest competitors. He's not a great driver anymore. Not to say he was ever amazing, but it's. The reason I'm saying it like this, I'll show you a clip in a minute. Piastri, second season in Formula 1, seems to have a lot of potential. Looks like he's got the potential of becoming a world champion at some point in his life, but offered no defence. You can't really quantify that as being a great move. Something that you had to drive supremely well to accomplish that. Lawson, well, again, watch what happened. Lawson he probably cost himself a second that lap just through opening the door for Max Verstappen, waving him through. The drivers that are contesting against Max Verstappen in this year's championship, Russell, Norris and Leclerc. I mean, Sainz already started from the pit lane, so Sainz isn't even in the equation. Okay, Russell, Norris and Leclerc, he didn't have to pass them. They pitted. Max got the fortune of that happening for free for him. And we get these fools in the comment section. Oh, yeah, but that was great strategy. You can't have the strategy for a red flag. What if it hadn't been a red flag? Would that have been great strategy? Yeah, but it was a red flag, so it was great strategy. No, that's called luck. Okay? Yes, you can hope, you can remain out on track saying, okay, if we feel that we can still keep going on these tyres, we will stay out for a little bit longer in the hope that we will make a benefit if there is a safety car or a red flag. Yes, you can do that. But those that pitted probably thought they were doing that when they were pitting. It was a virtual safety car. They thought that opportunity to get a cheaper pit stop had arrived, so they tried to take it. It didn't quite work out like that for them. That was a strategic call to try and get a cheaper pit stop, and it didn't work for them. So is that lucky, unlucky? Is that good strategy, bad strategy, or is it just luck? But then Max had the luck of actually getting it for free. Don't claim that is brilliant strategy. It's fortune. Had that race not been red flagged and it had just been a safety car and Max didn't pit then, had Colapinto not totaled it and it had just been, the field had been bunched and Max hadn't changed his tyres, it'd have been screwed. Those that had been in and changed their tyres, well, they wouldn't have needed to change their tyres, and then Max would have lost 20 seconds relative to now what would be a bunched up field. So it was. And the other thing is, why did they put a safety car out just because George Russell was complaining? Oh, I'm aquaplaning here and I can't see. George Russell, you're on the intermediate tyres. You have available the full wets. If you're complaining that you're aquaplaning and you've not got grip, you're on the wrong tyre. You need to go onto the tyre that is designed for those conditions, which is the full wets. If you can't see, then what you do is you back off. Okay? You back off. Doesn't mean you put a safety car out and neutralise all of the previously built up advantages. You back off until the conditions allow you to be able to see. Why should you ruin all of the advantages that have been built up between people, what they'd earned in that race? Why should they be all wiped out due to, oh, some of us now can't see a bit? Now, that is a valid safety concern, but the way that you deal with that safety concern is drivers taking responsibility for that themselves. The track didn't have an obstruction on it. Nobody's life was in danger. The way you manage a situation like that is you put on the appropriate tyres for the conditions, giving you the best grip so that you're not going to spin off the track, and you drive in a manner where you can see. And if you can't see, then you need to drop back so that you can see. Because if you drop back 2 seconds, then you can at least pick out where it is you're looking to drive. We saw them drive in spray conditions within a second of each other, and the visibility is atrocious. Now, when the rain gets a bit harder, if you drop back 2 or 3 seconds, well, what you're going to find is your visibility is going to be the same as what they're racing in when the rain, when they're only like a second behind each other. Okay? With a bit heavier rain, well, you might need to be 3 seconds in order to get the same level of visibility. That's what you do. You drop back a few seconds and carry on racing. And then when the conditions improve, you think, okay, I can now see a bit better. Now I can go on the attack again. You shouldn't be bringing out the safety car like that. That shouldn't be happening. But what it did, it benefited those that were behind people and got the chance to close all them seconds up. And obviously the red flag then benefited those with the free pit stop. And like I say, 4 cars there, that 4 positions gained through doing nothing. Through doing nothing, 4 positions gained. And then overtaking Esteban Ocon. I mean, initially Esteban Ocon pulled a gap on him. Then at the restart after the red flag, Esteban Ocon pulled a gap on him. It was only Carlos Sainz spinning and going into the tyres, causing yet another safety car, that Max got the jump on Esteban Ocon at turn 1 again, undefended again, and then off he raced. Now the problem is this. What I've just tried to demonstrate, and what is written on that screen in front of you, is a fair reflection of what actually happened. Where's the hate? There is none. Okay? I'm not trying to say that Max Verstappen is rubbish. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the way that the world's media is presenting that, they're using the term masterclass and trying to compare what we witnessed with some of the things that we've seen in the past in the sport, which were remarkable. And there was nothing really remarkable about what actually took place there. A remarkable accomplishment is where, relative to your peers, relative to the drivers that are at your level, you outperform them by a big margin, which is what Senna did at Donington that time. And I'm going to try and see if I can show you a bit there. Senna was up against Alain Prost, a 4-time world champion, Damon Hill, who went on to become a 2-time world champion, I believe, and then Michael Schumacher, who went on to become a 7-time world champion. He was up against the Williams car, which was the dominant car of that season. He was up against a Benetton car, which was, I think, the 3rd place in the championship that season. And Senna beat them and drove around them and pulled away at a ridiculous rate. That's what Senna did. And they're trying to compare what Max has done with that. So what's he done? And again, they're using the statistics because the statistics are one thing, but when you ground them in the context of what's actually going on, it's not as impressive, is it? 17th to 1st. Okay, well, you didn't. There was only 15. You were the 15th competitor. So it's not really 17, is it? Okay, so stop using 17 because 2 of them were completely out of the race. All right, so they're not overtakes. They're not positions gained. Right, so you can ignore them. Bearman, what is the? Is it a massive accomplishment to overtake Ollie Bearman off the line in his 3rd Grand Prix? Not really used to wet conditions. Got an atrocious start. No, that's just Max doing a relatively normal start and the car in front of him just not moving. Okay, there's nothing going on there. Perez got a equally poor start to Bearman, if not worse. Just got an atrocious start. The fact that Gasly, Hamilton, Colapinto and Bearman all overtook Perez, well, that should show you something. In fact, I might be wrong like that. In fact, did Gasly overtake him? I'm not so sure I've got this right. Let me just double check. Well, there's the grid. All right, there's Perez. And we know, yes, Gasly was in 13th. So Gasly got past Perez. Hamilton got past Perez. Colapinto got past Perez. As I showed you in the video, Bearman got past Perez. And Max Verstappen got past Perez. So there's 5 cars gone by Perez and Max Verstappen's one of them. You know, that just shows you how poor Perez was rather than how good Max was. So back here. The next one, like I say, Colapinto. Decent driver. Circumstances were inside line into turn 1 because he's on the left-hand side of the track. Conditions weren't such that you're going to be moving across the track very much. You're just trying to keep your car under control and try and avoid incidents. The cars are almost try and avoid each other as they're settling into a train of cars, and they all kind of move over to the left, all kind of held back by one another as that they're zipping in together, and Max just stays out on the right. Bottas could have potentially stayed out on the right, but he didn't, and that opened it all up for Max, and Max drove into the space. Congratulations for Max, but that dynamic wasn't there for Colapinto, and it wasn't there for Hamilton. Hamilton probably wouldn't have had the confidence in his car to even attempt it there. I think he was just tiptoeing his way around, it seemed. So the overtakes on Colapinto and Bottas, they've not got any value. The overtake on Hamilton into turn 1, undefended. The guy just, you could tell he just could not trust the handling of that car. The Gasly overtake, undefended. It's an Alpine. He's not, Max Verstappen is not his race. That's not got any value to it. The Alonso overtake had no value to it. Alonso just moved out the way on a straight. There was no skill involved in overtaking Alonso. The Piastri overtake, again, just a standard turn 1 overtake at Brazil, but completely undefended by Piastri. Again, Piastri probably just trying to deal with the conditions rather than actually be racing, and certainly not wheel racing, defending position. Lawson, wow, you've got to watch that. That was just a gift, an absolute gift. And then Ocon was just happy to be there. Let's be clear. I mean, Ocon didn't expect to beat Max Verstappen in this race. You wouldn't have thought. And let's face it, he didn't attempt to defend it. Didn't try to defend that move when it finally came. 10 positions, and which of those overtakes was against a top level competitor who is in machinery capable of competing? None of them. Not a single one. And yet, you go to Donington, and I'll put the link to this one in the description to go and have a look at this. You've got Alain Prost, a 4-time world champion. You've got Damon Hill. You've got Michael Schumacher. You've got Carl Wendlinger as well in that race, who started in the top 5 and actually got the jump on Senna at the start. Now, Carl Wendlinger, he had an accident in Formula 1 and sustained a brain injury and was never the same again. Okay, and what he actually did in Formula 1 was never set the world alight, but he was a promising driver. And he did okay in a Sauber, but never really got, from memory, I don't think he ever got a chance in the top team. But I do remember that I actually saw him take part in a race. I went to well, I think it was, I don't know if it was called WEC back then, but it was essentially a sports car race back at Silverstone when Schumacher was driving for the Mercedes team, and they were racing against the likes of the Jaguars, the Peugeots, the Mazdas, the Porsches, the kind of cars that used to race around Le Mans. Brundle was in that race. Brundle was driving for Jaguar. The race was won by Teo Fabi in the Jaguar. And Schumacher and Wendlinger were teammates driving one of those Silver Arrows Mercs. So Wendlinger was a good driver. Okay, he was a good up-and-coming driver. And Senna just blitzed past everybody. I mean, listen to this. This is just a little bit of commentary. I can't play you much; it will probably get blocked on copyright. But just listen.
Circumspect Alain Prost, or circumspect in these sort of conditions, but in fact the visibility is fine.
The visibility here at Donington was fine, yeah? So it's not as though that the cars following Senna were impacted by the visibility. It wasn't at Donington, it wasn't the fact, oh, Senna's overtaken them all on the first lap, and now all the spray that he's kicking up has mean they're all suffering from poor visibility, and hence that's why you can just drive away from them.
And Prost is quoted as saying he doesn't mind slippery tracks, that's good fun. It's not being able to see now.
So, the drivers like not being able to see. If you can't see because spray's kicking up, then it's going to slow you down, isn't it? But if you're out the front and you're not suffering from the spray, you're going to drive away. But Senna drove away from everybody. After 3 laps, he was 6 seconds ahead. He was going away from them at 2 seconds a lap. And those weren't the cars that he'd overtaken. They weren't suffering because of the spray he was kicking up. They just couldn't drive at the same speed. And these were cars that were faster than Senna. You look at the season-long results. That Williams car, this is the championship, 168 points, Williams, and this was back in a different point scoring system. The McLaren got 84 points. The McLaren car of Senna got half the amount of points of that Williams car that season. Okay, that is how good Senna's performance was there relative to the guys that he was up against in that championship. You go to the World Championship. So Alain Prost was the winner of the World Championship that year. Senna beat Damon Hill in the other Williams. Schumacher, 4th in the championship. Schumacher goes on to become a 7-time world champion. Brundle, bloody 7th in the world championship. So in that race, Ayrton Senna beat the world champion of that year. Okay, obliterated him in the wet. He beat Damon Hill, who came 3rd in the championship that year. Okay, and won 3 races. Alain Prost won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 races that year. Schumacher won a race that year and got couple of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds and 3 thirds. And Ayrton Senna, well, he's just made a mug of them, hasn't he? Where's Wendlinger on this list? Let me have a look down here. Senna's just made a mug of those top 4 in the championship. Where am I looking? Why can't I see his name? Did he only just come into the... Oh, there he is. 12th. Missed him. Karl Wendlinger, Austrian. Let me just... So, retired. 13th, 6th, retired. 9th, 6th, retired. 4th, 5th. See, when he wasn't retiring, they were pretty decent finishes. 4th, 5th, 6th. In a Sauber car, which... Where does that Sauber... Well, it's going to be indicative of the results, isn't it? As to where you're going to finish in the championship. But that Sauber car wasn't a good... Well, 7th in the championship. Back in the day. Behind Williams, McLaren, Benetton, Ferrari, Ligier, Lotus, and then it's Sauber. But pretty poor results from both drivers there. But who's the other Sauber driver? Can't even think who his teammate would be. 4th, 5th, 6th, 6th, and the other Sauber driver's got a 4th, a 5th, and then 7th, 8th, and 9th. Don't know who the other Sauber driver is. I wonder if it's going to say up there. Let's have a look. No, doesn't tell me who they are. Doesn't tell me who they are. Some of you will probably already... Oh, will it be here? No. But again, this is the list of Grand Prix. Pole position. Who was the dominant car? Pole position. Alain Prost, Alain Prost, Alain Prost, Alain Prost, Alain Prost, Alain Prost. Okay? And Senna smokes him. Right? Fastest laps. Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher. Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher. Right? In wet conditions, Senna smokes him. We're not seeing that dynamic this season, are we? We can look at this season's statistics. Max Verstappen has won the most amount of races. Max was in the dominant car. Okay, the performance of that Red Bull car has dropped off. Why has it dropped off? Oh, certain things have been banned. Was that dominant car illegal? Why is it now coming back to form? Why can it still set a fast qualifying lap and yet not carry that pace in a race? Too many unanswerable questions at the moment. Too many doubts. But look at this. Winning constructor. Williams, McLaren, Williams. There's a Benetton in there. Senna was not in the fastest car. Okay? You can see by who's setting the pole positions there. And yet Senna obliterated his rivals on track, and he overtook them and drove away from them. They weren't hindered by spray and visibility. That's not what you saw happen from Max Verstappen. Now, this isn't hate. This is just an explanation of the true dynamics. This is what is really happening. This is what you really saw. Okay, and it doesn't constitute being ranked alongside what Senna's driver was at Donington 1993. Just doesn't rank alongside that. And what they're trying to do, they're trying to hype it up. The salesmen are trying to sell it to the world that we are watching something that is just as good as that. And it's not. The accomplishment does not in any way rank alongside what Senna did at Donington in 1993. The guys that could be challenging Max Verstappen this year, he didn't have to do anything against. And not only that, them guys aren't to the level of Prost, Hill and Schumacher. And Senna obliterated them. Senna obliterated Prost, Hill and Schumacher. And I don't even rate Hill that highly anyway. Right? Senna obliterated Prost and Schumacher. Now, just beating Norris, Leclerc and Russell, that's not the same as beating Prost, Hill and Schumacher. Okay? But he didn't even beat Russell, Norris and Leclerc on the track. They pitted, they got out of his way, and then Max got that for free. It is in no way the same level of accomplishment whatsoever, and yet the media hype show surrounding Formula One is producing article after article and YouTuber after YouTuber going, oh, masterclass. Oh, masterclass. It's not in the same ballpark. It's not in any way the same level. It's not in any way the same level. You know, it's like Lionel Messi goes on a dribble and takes it past 5 players. And those players are Sergio Ramos, you know, one of the most decorated defenders in the world. Think of your top 5 defenders in the world, okay? Lionel Messi goes on a dribble with the ball and takes it past the 5 best defenders in the world, right? That's pretty good, isn't it? Now, if somebody else gets the ball and manages to dribble past, I don't know, Harry Maguire, John Stones, and a couple of other Johnny Average players at the back, does that make them as good as Lionel Messi? It doesn't, does it? It doesn't. So don't try and make headlines comparing the two. Don't draw them comparisons, and don't lead people to believe that you are watching the same level of greatness. Because you're not. You're really not. But it's just sales then. Why can't we just be truthful about what's actually going on? You know, I've not got an issue with the fact that Max Verstappen won that race. Fair enough, he won the race. He benefited from a red flag. I think it's pretty dodgy that they put out a safety car before the red flag. There was nobody crashed at that point. If cars are struggling, well, you're on the wrong tyres. It's down to you as a team to stop trying to dangerously try and stay out on track on intermediates. If the track's got too wet for them, you need to be on full wets. So if George Russell's complaining of aquaplaning, I've just pitted onto a new set of intermediates, and now the rain's getting harder. Well, you silly fool, you've just lost your pit stop. And now you're going to have to come in again because it's got harder on the rain and you need to go on to full wets. That's how you need to manage that situation. And if the visibility is atrocious, well, you manage that by dropping back a few seconds and therefore enabling yourself that window to be actually to see. Okay, when that spray is just like settled it's only in the air for a few seconds and then you can start seeing through it. So you drop back that bit of time and then you can see and you can continue lapping. It didn't require the intervention of the FIA to deploy a safety car just because the rain got a little bit heavier and the track got a bit wetter. And then under a safety car condition, we've then got a car that totals it, that's on the wrong tyres. That's the problem. One of them problems, one of the dynamics that links into that is the fact that the performance differential between the intermediate tyre and the full wet is such that teams would rather risk staying out on that intermediate tyre, which they're struggling for grip on, than pitting for the full wet because they think that limits them so much being on the full wet that they'd do anything to not be on it. That's a problem, isn't it? That's a problem. You really need to have tyres that teams aren't risking safety through, because by going on to the full wets, it inhibits their performance relative to the other alternative so much that they're reluctant to go onto a full wet. So that is a problem with the tyre supplying to the sport. But it's not something that the FIA should be intervening in that race on the grounds of safety. Okay, I'm an advocate. I'm a full kind of advocate of the notion of safety in the sport. All right, but that was a safety issue that should be managed by the teams and the drivers in terms of making sure you are on the right compound of tyre and managing how you drive in those conditions by just not getting too close to the guy in front of you. If you can't see them, then don't get too close to them. Back off for a bit. And if the conditions then remain like that, well, they're the positions that you stay in. That's what it is. And if the conditions improve and the visibility improves, you can go back to challenging. Just because the visibility is poorer, why does that mean we stick a safety car out on the track? There's ways of dealing with that by people taking responsibility for their actions. We play sport in different conditions, and you adjust your approach to that sport relative to the conditions, relative to your grip levels, how the conditions impact how you can perform. And if that involves visibility, well, you adjust that accordingly as well. In cycling, if you have a stage of the Tour de France and it's raining, and maybe there's spray or maybe there's mist, they don't get the safety car out. Riders just adjust their approach accordingly. It's what it is. There was a red flag. Max got the benefit of it. The Alpines got the benefit of it. Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. It happened. He got the benefit of it. Don't go calling it a masterclass, because it wasn't a masterclass. Why we are trying to brainwash people, why we're trying to sell it to people, I say we, why they are trying to do that, well, this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem in this world, that we're being just fed what they want us to believe with no context of reality. Everything's sensationalized. Everybody's led to believe that, you're seeing the best ever. You're not seeing standards improve. Absolutely not. If anything, things are going backwards. As we saw Ayrton Senna drive away at 2 seconds a lap from guys that beat him that season in better machinery. And Senna could do that. That wasn't what we saw at Brazil 2024. So let's not compare the two. Let's see if this one gets uploaded or whether this one gets blocked on copyright. This was probably longer, but we'll see. Thank you for your time.